And Doug Wilson rifles it. Rebound. Oh, what a save by Patrick Waugh. You got to see that one again a couple of times, folks. Stand by.
With Waugh seemingly right out of position after making the initial save there. Now take a look at this. What about the timing?
Kenny C back here on the mic. Today, we're going to do a little Did You Know NHL Goalie Edition. The NHL's been around for 107 years, and they've been giving out the Hart Trophy, which is the league's MVP award, since 1923-1924. Now, similar to the NFL in how the NFL's MVP award is usually never given to running backs, there's been just 18 that have won the award, the Hart Trophy doesn't take lightly to goalies, and that's why only 7 goalies have won the Hart Trophy since it was first given out. Let's go back and take a look at the 7. The first goaltender to capture the Hart Trophy was none other than Roy "Shrimp" Worters, doing it back in 1929 for the New York Americans. Standing at just 5'3", 130 pounds, Worters is the shortest player in NHL history, a pioneer of the game as he was the first goaltender to utilize the blocker to deflect shots to the corner rather than use a glove to corral them. He finished with a 1.15 goals against average that year, 16 wins and 13 shutouts en route to leading the Americans to a second place finish. He finished his career with a 2.28 goals against average, good for the 12th best among goaltenders that played in a minimum of 100 games. The second goaltender, and first since Worters back at that time to win the Hart, was Chuck Rayner for the New York Rangers in 1950, sporting a 262 goals against average, 6 shutouts, and 28 wins, leading the Rangers to the Stanley Cup, where they would lose in heartbreak fashion 4-3 in Game 7 to the Detroit Red Wings. Widely viewed to be the first goalie to roam the ice, he literally would play the blue line. Back when goalies were allowed to go past center ice, he would play the blue line at certain times for the Rangers. He finished his career with a 2.98 goals against average, and he stood at 5'11", 190 pounds, with which, contrary to Worters, was pretty big at the time for a goalie. Just 4 years after Rayner captured the Hart, along came Al Rollins, who did it in 1954 as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. He spent 9 seasons in the NHL and was actually traded by the Toronto Maple Leafs a season after they won the Stanley Cup in 1951. They dished him away to the Blackhawks after the 51-52 season, and he had to endure 4 straight seasons of Chicago finishing in dead last, including the year he won the Hart, where he had a record of 12-47. 5 out of those 12 wins, however, were shutouts, and he finished with a 3.21 goals against average. It's safe to say the award should have been called the most valiant player, as he had to deal with quite a lot with that bad Chicago team. The next goaltender to capture the Hart after Rollins did it was one of the greatest goaltenders of all time, Jacques Plante, doing it in 1962 with the Montreal Canadiens, a 6-time Stanley Cup champion. Plante spent 18 seasons in the NHL and finished that 62 season with a 42-14 record, a .923 save percentage, which, by the way, the NHL first started tracking save percentage in 1955-56, and a 2.37 goals against average, leading the Canadiens to the semifinal, where they lost 4-2 to the Blackhawks. And he often went head-to-head with Toe Blake over wearing the goalie mask. He's the first goaltender to regularly wear a goalie mask, doing it in 1959 on November 1st after taking a backhanded puck to the nose, breaking his nose clean. The puck came off of the stick of Andy Bathgate, one of the greatest players in NHL history and a Rangers great. He went head-to-head with Toe Blake about wearing the mask, but he was the only goaltender for that game. There was no backup. So, Toe Blake had no other chance, no other choice, I should say, than to keep Plante in net and let him wear the mask, and he went on to lead them to an 8-game winning streak, and then they won the Cup in 59-60 that same year. So, it's safe to say that Plante is a pioneer of the game as well, as we now have the goalie mask regularly implemented in every single game. But Plante was the first to do it regularly, and he finished his career with a .920 save percentage, 437 wins, good for 9th all-time, and 82 shutouts, good for 5th all-time. It took 35 years for the next Tendy to capture the Hart Trophy, and that goaltender was none other than Dominik Hasek. Doing it in 1997 and 1998, he still is the only goaltender to win more than one Hart Trophy, and to boot, he won the Vezina Trophy in both of those seasons as well, becoming just the second player in NHL history to win both the Vezina and the Hart in the same season. Jacques Plante, who I failed to mention, did it first in that 1962 year. And Hasek was known for his improvisational tactics and having really no style but his own in the net, with his acrobatic movements all carefully calculated. There's been nobody like him. I wish I got to see him play. That season, or those 2 seasons, he combined for 70 wins, had a 2.27 goals against average and a 2.09 goals against average, respectively, a .930 save percentage and a .932 save percentage, respectively, with 18 combined shutouts. He led the Buffalo Sabres to the Stanley Cup in '98, where we all know about that controversial goal, no goal. Brett Hull scored the goal in that Game 6 to lift the Dallas Stars over the Sabres and win the Stanley Cup that year. Hasek finished his career with 389 wins, good for 15th all-time, a .922 save percentage, which is the #1 save percentage all-time, and a 2.20 goals against average, which is also best all-time since the stat was since the original 6 era, because prior to that there are players with better, but since that time he's #1 in 2 major goalie statistics. 4 years after Hasek, Jose Theodore won the Hart Trophy for the Montreal Canadiens in 2002, sporting a .931 save percentage, a 2.11 goals against average, and 7 shutouts with 30 wins. He is the third goalie, or at the time was the third goalie, to win the Vezina and the Hart in the same season, joining Hasek and Jacques Plante, and the 6th goalie in NHL history to score a goal, doing it against the New York Islanders back in 2001. Theodore finished his career with 286 wins, a 2.68 goals against average, and a .909 save percentage with 33 total shutouts. The 7th and final goaltender to capture the Hart Trophy was Carey Price, doing it back in 2015 with the Montreal Canadiens. He spent all 15 seasons with the Habs, and he had perhaps one of the greatest seasons in NHL history by a goalie in my eyes. He finished that year with 44 wins, a .933 save percentage, and a 1.96 goals against average, playing in that similar style to Patrick Roy in the Butterfly, and also winning the Vezina that year, becoming the 4th goaltender to win both the Vezina and the Hart in the same season. The Habs lost that year in the second round, 4-2, to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but nonetheless, Price is an absolute legend. He became the all-time wins leader for the Canadiens in their franchise history, passing Plante back in 2019, and due to injuries that plagued the better second half of his career, he retired in 2022. And that is my Did You Know NHL Goalie Edition. And if you didn't know, now you know.